was asked over the last week. It was because as I was talking, I kept using the word grace. I was talking about things happening in my own life, and as I was saying it, I kept kind of explaining it, that it was because of the grace of God that this had happened, because of the grace of God this had happened. And then even when I was talking about things that were really kind of difficult, I kept saying, but the grace of God, and I kept saying that. And the person I was saying this to, they stopped me and they said, "I'm sorry, can I just ask you for a minute before you go on? Why do you keep saying grace, and what does that mean?" And I thought, for me, the word grace just makes like a deep sense. Like but for the grace of God, just about any part of my whole life would read differently. Every single detail would be different. I may not even exist but for the grace of God. So for me, grace is just sort of like, it's like air. It's like my breath. If I don't have the air to breathe, then I have no breath. If I don't have grace, there is no life for me. And so I was trying to explain this to this person who's kind of familiar with Christian stories, but maybe you're not. Maybe you're like, what is this grace idea all about? Because as far as you know, grace is not something that people are just sort of given any day, and it's not that important. Most people, when they think about religious things, or when they think about even Christianity, they think a lot about behavior and doing good works and being a good person. Grace doesn't really come into the story. But actually, grace is the center part of the story, and it is the amazing grace of God that actually transforms people. It's not the rules. It's not the Jesus saying, be a good neighbor stuff. That's not what actually makes people good neighbors. It's grace. So today, as we celebrate Easter, I think it's really important for us to know that Easter is about the greatest act of grace that there ever was. In fact, it's the leveler. It's the thing that launches it. It's the thing that makes grace true, and it sets the standard for it. Listen to this verse from Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 9. It says, "We see him," and he's talking about Jesus, "who for a little while was made lower than the angels." And maybe you know the story. Christ, who is God's Son in glory, is made human flesh and is birthed to Mary in Bethlehem in a stable, in a manger, in a food trough. He is taken from his elevated heights, that there is no one higher than him, and he's made lower than even the angelic forces that are the servants of God serving him in the world. He's made low, 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 namely Jesus. But we see him crowned with glory and honor. And that's essentially what Easter Sunday is about. It's about the glorification of Christ who rose from the dead, and Christ that now is exalted in heaven. There is no name greater than him, no more glory. There is no one more full of majesty than Jesus Christ. And that's what we see now. But it's because of the suffering of death. He says he was crowned with glory and honor because of the suffering of death, so that by the grace of God, he might taste death for everyone. You see, it is actually the story of Jesus dying on the cross on Good Friday, and him surrendering his life and fully experiencing real death. And they took him down from that cross dead, and they buried him in a tomb dead. And then 3 days later, or on the third day, Jesus Christ was raised from the dead by the power of the Holy Spirit. And then later on, he was exalted to the heavens, and now sits enthroned with God in all of his perfect glory. But it's the understanding of the death of Jesus Christ that's so important to understand grace. I want to tell you about what grace means for you and for me. There's this prayer that Jesus prayed. And this is the prayer that God answered that allowed Jesus to experience death. If Jesus doesn't experience death, then this prayer is unanswered. And if it's unanswered, then the expression of grace is really limited. It really only goes so far. But that's not the grace of God that's displayed in the death of Jesus. Listen to this prayer. Jesus asks the Father, he says, I don't ask for these only. This is found in John 17. But also for those who will believe in me through their word. That's us today. That's me talking to you. He says that they may be one, just as you, Father, are in me, and I am in you, that they may be in us, so that the world may believe that you sent me. The glory that you have given me, I have given them, that they may be one, even as we are one. I in them, and you in me, so that we become perfectly one. So that the world may know that you sent me and have loved them even as you loved me. Do you see how many times in that prayer that Jesus is asking to become one? To be completely unified with us. And not just the people of his day, the disciples that were following him, but all of the people who would believe in him because of the testimony of the disciples that we now have recorded, that the people that are alive today, Jesus has prayed that we would become one. Now, what does it mean to become one? Does that just mean that we're on the same team? Does it mean that we're just, of one country, fellow citizens? Well, it is all of that, but it's so much more. Think about what it means to become one with somebody. If you are united with somebody else completely, so that you share everything that other person shares. There is not one thing that other does not experience. I was thinking about how a lot of the prayer of Jesus happens in a garden. And in that prayer, he's in this middle of this garden of olives. And the name of the garden is Gethsemane, which means oil press or olive oil press. And I don't know if you've ever seen grapes being turned into wine, but the process is a lot easier. If you've ever seen grapes, they're just, they're thin skin, full of juice, and you put them in a vat in the day and everybody just jumped on them and it just squished out wine, squished out wine. Now, Jesus talks about wine being the essence of his life at the Last Supper when he says, "This is my blood, this wine." But here in the olive grove, he's talking about how it takes so much more grinding effort to turn an olive into olive oil. These olives are very ripe, ready to be crushed. In the old days, they used to have to run stones over them to crush them. And as they were crushed together, all of this horrible, juicy mess would come out. But in the crushing, they became one. Jesus actually prays that he would be able to experience our death. That he would not be separated from us in any way. Human beings, you and I, we experience death, the end of our living. And Jesus Christ wants to take our death. By the grace of God, Jesus Christ is allowed to share, to drink, to taste, to have the death of every human being. And the absolute finite, the finishing of all people's lives that occurs in death. Jesus said, I want to experience that death. My life is preserved and I am living eternally. I cannot experience death. He prays, Father, let me experience their death. Let them and I be united in death. I want to experience death on their behalf. I want to take their death for them. I want to have it all. I mean, that's grace, isn't it? I mean, if you were to say, hey, who would you like to become one with? You know, if you were thinking to yourself, I've got my life to live, but I want to live it with somebody, like you people do in marriage all of the time. Who is it that's volunteering or choosing to be united with people with tons of problems, who have massive debts, or people who are, just so super duper sick that they don't get to enjoy life at all? Like, when people think about who they want to be united with, they always think about how it's going to benefit them, like how much more they can get out of life, not what it's going to cost them and the pain that comes with that. But Jesus Christ, because of the grace of God, he said, I want your mess. I want to be united in the worst and the most limiting thing about your life. I want to be partners in that. But the reasons that I want to be partners with it is because I want to become totally one with you, so that you can become totally one with me and the Father. You see, the resurrection of Jesus, when he comes back from the dead, is the fulfillment of that prayer. It's God saying, they can be one with us. Jesus takes on our worst. He absorbs our death, our sin. He absorbs all of our offenses against God, and he absorbs all that it means to be human. But he does that so that we can absorb all that it means to be God, so that we can take God's life on, so that we can experience the love that Jesus has with the Father, that we can share it too. You see, the day of the resurrection, when Jesus Christ is raised from the dead, he becomes the firstborn of many brothers. He becomes the first cab off the rank of a new kind of people united with God. And we can be partners with that. I want you to know that today, the amazing grace of God is not that Jesus would just share your death and share your weaknesses and share your sin and take it all on himself. But the grace of God also means that you share in Jesus' life. And if you receive Jesus Christ into your heart and you become one with him, then you have every help and attribute and power that he has. And you have a place with God the Father in perfect love. But do you believe it? Jesus Christ died so that he could experience your death, so that you could experience his glory and position with the Father in heaven. God bless you as you think about these truths today, as you contemplate the amazing grace of God towards you. May you be blessed with the Holy Spirit helping you to understand exactly what you have when you're one with Christ.
Well, thank you for watching that video. Did you know that you can watch more content by clicking this link right here? Also, make sure that you get onto our YouTube channel and subscribe, because that way you'll be kept in touch with new videos that are coming out all week.